You're taking advantage of family. Uncle Pete's voice boomed across my dining room table, making the crystal glasses shake. Always acting like you're better than us, throwing your success in our faces. I sat there, stunned into silence, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. The party dinner I'd spent 3 days preparing suddenly felt like ash in my throat. The irony of his accusation would have been laughable if it weren't so infuriating. My name is Daniel Mitchell, and at 34, I own a beautiful 4-bedroom house in the suburbs of Boston. For the past 8 months, I've been temporarily housing my Uncle Pete, Aunt Marie, and their 2 teenage kids after they lost their home due to what they called unfortunate circumstances. Those circumstances, I later learned, involved years of unpaid mortgages and maxed out credit cards. I don't understand, I said, keeping my voice level. How exactly am I taking advantage? Uncle Pete stabbed his fork into the roast I'd spent hours preparing. All these fancy dinners, this big house, acting like some sort of savior letting us stay here. We're family. You're supposed to help family without making them feel like charity cases. I looked around the table at my relatives' faces. My parents, who lived across town in their own home, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. My younger sister Emily stared at her plate, avoiding eye contact. Aunt Marie just kept eating as if her husband wasn't having a meltdown at our holiday dinner. Uncle Pete, I said carefully, I haven't asked you for a single dollar since you moved in. Not for rent, not for food, not for utilities. Exactly, he thundered. Because you don't need it. You're showing off how much money you have while the rest of us struggle. That was it. 8 months of built-up frustration finally boiled over. I stood up, walked to my home office, and returned with a folder I'd been keeping updated since they moved in. Let's talk about showing off, I said, pulling out the first paper. Here's last month's electricity bill. Notice how it's triple what it was before you moved in. Your kids leave every light on, run the AC at full blast, and nobody seems to know how to unplug a charger. Uncle Pete's face reddened. Now you're counting pennies. I pulled out another statement. Here's the water bill, 4 times higher than normal. Those hour-long showers add up, Uncle Pete. And the weekly car washes in the driveway? I pay for that water. Daniel, my mother interjected softly, maybe this isn't the time. No, Mom, it is the time. I continued, laying out more papers. Internet bill, doubled since they moved in because we needed the premium package for the kids' gaming. Grocery bills, tripled. Gas bill. Don't even get me started on how many times the heat's been left on with windows open. The dining room had gone completely silent. Even Uncle Pete seemed momentarily stunned by the stack of evidence in front of him. And let's not forget, I added, pulling out the final paper, the repair bill for the basement flooding last month when someone decided to try fixing the washing machine themselves instead of calling a professional. Aunt Mary finally looked up from her plate. We said we pay you back for that. Like you paid me back for the car repair in September, or the emergency dental work for Jamie in October? I shook my head. I haven't seen a single dollar. Uncle Pete pushed his chair back, the legs scraping against my hardwood floors. So that's what this is about? Money? You're going to hold that over our heads on party? No, Uncle Pete, I said, my voice steady. This is about respect. You live in my home, use my utilities, eat my food, and then have the audacity to accuse me of taking advantage of family. When's the last time you even bought toilet paper for the house you live in? The silence that followed was deafening. My sister Emily finally spoke up, her voice quiet but firm. He's right, Uncle Pete. Daniel's been supporting you guys for months without complaining. Supporting us? Uncle Pete scoffed, but I could see the uncertainty in his eyes. We're family. Family helps family. Yes, I agreed, gathering the papers back into the folder. Family does help family, but family also shows gratitude. Family respects boundaries, and family certainly doesn't accuse someone of showing off in their own home while living there rent-free. I stood up, suddenly tired of the whole situation. I think it's time we had a serious discussion about your living arrangements. But first, enjoy the dinner I spent 3 days preparing. I'll be in my office when you're ready to talk like adults. As I walked away from the table, I could hear the whispers starting, the shuffle of papers as someone looked through the bills I'd left behind. I hadn't wanted to do this during party dinner, but sometimes people need a wake-up call, even if the timing isn't perfect. In my office, I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and started drafting a formal agreement. If they wanted to continue living here, things were going to change. I had been patient, understanding, and generous. But even family has limits, and Uncle Pete had just found mine. The days following party, dinner were tense, to say the least. Uncle Pete and his family retreated to the basement, emerging only for food or when absolutely necessary. I could hear their whispered conversations late at night, probably discussing their options, but no one approached me directly. My mom called the next morning, her voice hesitant. "Daniel, honey, maybe you were a bit harsh." "Mom," I interrupted, "they've cost me over $15,000 in 8 months. That's not including the food, the broken furniture, or the wear and tear on my house. Would you be misunderstanding if they were living with you?" Her silence was telling. On New Year's Eve, while everyone else in the neighborhood was celebrating, I sat in my home office reviewing my finances. The truth was, I could afford to support them. My job as a software engineer paid well. But that wasn't the point. The point was respect, gratitude, and basic human decency. A knock on my office door pulled me from my thoughts. It was Jamie, Uncle Pete's 16-year-old son. "Hey, Daniel," he said, hovering in the doorway. "Can we talk?" I gestured to the chair across from my desk. Jamie sat down, fidgeting with his phone case. I saw the bills," he started. "I didn't realize how much electricity my gaming setup was using. Or the internet. Or, well, everything." I softened slightly. At least someone was getting it. "It's not just about the money, Jamie." I know, he nodded. "Dad's been difficult. Mom knows it too, but she won't stand up to him. They've been fighting about it." That explained the late-night whispers I've been hearing. "Listen," I said, leaning forward. "I don't want to kick you guys out, but things need to change. Your dad can't keep acting like I owe him something while simultaneously taking advantage of my generosity." Jamie looked down at his hands. "He's always been like this, even before we lost the house. Always thinking the world owes him something." That evening, Aunt Mary finally emerged from the basement, looking tired but determined. She placed an envelope on my desk. "It's not much," she said quietly, "just $500. I've been saving it from my part-time job at the grocery store. I should have spoken up sooner, Daniel. You've been so good to us, and Pete's behavior was inexcusable." I looked at the envelope but didn't take it. "Keep it, Aunt Marie. What I want is change, not money." She sat down heavily in the chair Jamie had occupied earlier. "We've been entitled and ungrateful. The kids see it. I see it. Pete, he's struggling with his pride. Losing the house hit him hard, harder than he'll admit." "I understand that," I said. "But using me as a punching bag for his wounded pride isn't acceptable." She nodded, wiping at her eyes. "We've been looking at apartments, small ones, but stop." I held up my hand. "I meant what I said to Jamie. I don't want you to leave. I want things to change." I pulled out the agreement I drafted. "Here's what I propose. You stay, but with clear boundaries. A reasonable monthly contribution for utilities. Shared responsibility for groceries and household supplies. And most importantly, respect. For my home and for me." Aunt Marie read through the agreement, her eyes widening at how reasonable the suggested contributions were, far less than they'd pay for even the smallest apartment. "This is very fair," she said finally. "More than fair." "I know," I replied, "because this isn't about money. It's about family actually acting like family." Just then, heavy footsteps approached my office. Uncle Pete appeared in the doorway, looking uncomfortable. "The kids showed me their internet research," he said gruffly. "Average utility costs for a household our size. Rental prices in the area. Food costs for 6 people." He cleared his throat. I may have been out of line at party. Coming from Uncle Pete, this was practically groveling. "May have been." I raised an eyebrow. He sighed heavily. "Okay, I was wrong. Dead wrong. And I'm sorry." I let the silence stretch for a moment, watching him squirm. "Sorry for what specifically?" "For accusing you of showing off when you were helping us. For taking advantage of your generosity. For being an ungrateful." He glanced at his wife. "Jerk." I nodded slowly. And for trying to fix the washing machine myself," he added with a hint of his old humor. Despite everything, I found myself fighting back a smile. "Sit down, Uncle Pete. Let's talk about how we move forward from here." As I explained the agreement to him, I could see him wrestling with his pride, but looking at the numbers, how much they'd save even while contributing fairly, I saw the moment reality won out over ego. "Where do I sign?" he asked finally. As I watched them both sign the agreement, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Maybe, just maybe, we could salvage this situation and come out stronger as a family. But one thing was certain: I'd never again let anyone take advantage of my generosity, family or not. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is set firm boundaries and stick to them. 6 months later, the transformation in my household was remarkable. The agreement had become more than just a piece of paper. It had reshaped our entire family dynamic. Uncle Pete, to everyone's surprise, had thrown himself into home maintenance with unexpected enthusiasm. After taking some online courses, he actually became quite skilled at repairs. The same pride that had once made him lash out was now channeled into keeping my property in pristine condition. "Daniel," he called one Saturday morning, "come check out the garage organization system I installed." I walked out to find my previously cluttered garage transformed into something that could have been featured in a home improvement magazine. Everything was labeled, stored efficiently, and there was even a new workbench. "I used my contribution money for this month," he explained. "Figured it was better than just handing over cash. Plus, it helps everyone." That was another surprising change. Rather than viewing their monthly contributions as a burden, my aunt and uncle had started looking for ways to add value to the household. Aunt Marie had taken over meal planning and grocery shopping, reducing our food waste and costs significantly. She even started a small vegetable garden in the backyard. The teenagers, Jamie and his sister Sarah, had also stepped up. They created a chore chart app that we all used, complete with utility usage tracking. Their tech-savvy approach to household management actually made it fun. They turned it into a family competition to see who could save the most energy each month. One evening, as we all sat down for our now regular Sunday family dinner, a much more pleasant affair than that fateful party, my parents joined us. "I hardly recognize this place," Mom said, looking around appreciatively. "Or all of you, for that matter." She was right. The tension that had once filled the house had been replaced by genuine warmth and cooperation. Even the physical space reflected the change. Shared areas were kept clean, personal spaces were respected, and there was a sense of collective pride in our home. "Remember when you thought I was being harsh?" I asked her quietly. She squeezed my hand. "You weren't harsh, honey. You were wise. Sometimes love means setting boundaries." Uncle Pete overheard us. "He was right, sis," he said to my mom. I needed that wake-up call. We all did. After dinner, as everyone helped with cleanup, another new normal, Uncle Pete pulled me aside. "Got some news," he said, uncharacteristically nervous. "I've been offered a full-time position at the hardware store, assistant manager." "That's fantastic." I genuinely meant it. "Yeah, well," he shuffled his feet. "The thing is, with Marie's job going permanent too, we could probably afford our own place now." I felt a surprising pang at the thought. "You don't have to leave," I said quickly. "The arrangement's working." He smiled. "That's just it. We want to stay, if you'll have us. Put the money we'd spend on rent towards something better. Maybe help you with a down payment on that rental property you were talking about." I stared at him shocked. This was a far cry from the man who'd screamed about me taking advantage of family just months ago. "We've been doing the math." Aunt Marie joined us, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "If we all pool our resources, we could turn this into something bigger, a real family investment." Jamie and Sarah bounded over, excited to share their part. "We've made spreadsheets," Sarah announced proudly, "showing how much we could all save by continuing to live together, but investing the extra money instead of spending it on separate houses." I looked at these people, my family, who had gone from entitled house guests to true partners in building something meaningful. "You know what?" I said, grinning. "Let's see those spreadsheets." Later that night, as I sat in my office reviewing their surprisingly detailed financial plans, I reflected on how far we'd come. The crisis at party had forced us to confront uncomfortable truths, but it had also opened the door to something better. My phone buzzed with a message from Uncle Pete. "Found a great property listing. Has 2 units and a basement apartment. Could be perfect for our family investment. Coffee tomorrow to discuss." I smiled as I typed my reply. "You're buying. And no trying to fix anything without proper training this time." His response came quickly. "Deal." And Daniel, thanks, not just for the house, but for not giving up on us when you had every right to. Looking around my now peaceful home, I realized that sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the best outcomes. By standing firm and demanding respect, I hadn't just protected myself. I'd helped my family become better versions of themselves. And that was worth more than all the unpaid utilities in the world. I gave away your stupid doll collection, Patricia sneered, arms crossed as if daring me to react. They were just gathering dust. The words hit like a slap. My childhood bedroom stood hollow, shelves stripped bare, each empty space a ghost of 20 years of care and dedication. Those dolls weren't just a collection. They were my history, my joy. And now they were gone. They were taking up space, she added with a shrug, her smirk more cutting than any insult. At least now some underprivileged kids will actually play with them. I forced my voice steady. Those weren't toys, Patricia. They were collectibles. Some of them museum grade. She waved a manicured hand dismissively. You're too old for dolls. I did you a favor. A favor, like the time she reorganized my kitchen or landscaped my garden without asking. But this wasn't just meddling, this was theft. Where did you take them? I asked, my grip on control slipping as my hands trembled. That charity shop on Mason Street. Her tone was as casual as if she were discussing the weather. They were thrilled. Thrilled, of course they were. Among those stupid dolls was an original 1968 Wild Lily, insured for $50,000, one of the many treasures she'd discarded. When did you do this? I pulled out my phone, hitting record. This morning. She leaned against the doorframe, inspecting her reflection. Had to make 3 trips in the SUV. Robert thinks it's about time you grew up, by the way. Robert, my husband. Always her ally. But he was out of town. Meaning this time, her actions were hers alone. I took a steadying breath and smiled. Thank you for letting me know where you took them. That'll make it easier. Her smirk faltered. Easier for what? Getting them back and pressing charges for theft. Her laugh was shrill, forced. Don't be ridiculous. They were just sitting here, wasting space in asterisk, my house asterisk. Your house? I turned to face her fully. This is my childhood home, Patricia. The one my parents left to me. You and Robert live here because asterisk I asterisk let you, remember. Her face paled. I continued pulling up photos and documentation on my phone. Every piece was cataloged and insured, including this one. I held up an image of the Wild Lily. It's worth $50,000. Her mouth opened, then shut. That's impossible. I showed her the authentication papers. What's impossible is you thinking this wouldn't have consequences. She stammered, I was just trying to help. No, Patricia, I said quietly, but firmly. You were trying to control me, like always. But this time you went too far. I turned on my heel and walked out, my phone dialing the police. Behind me, Patricia's voice climbed in panic. Wait, I'll fix it. I'll get them back. But I didn't stop. As I sat in my car, calmly giving the dispatcher the details, I felt the weight of years of her manipulation lift. Patricia thought she was teaching me a lesson about growing up. Instead, she was finally learning one about respect. The police arrived within 20 minutes. I stayed in the living room, methodically organizing my documentation while 2 officers interviewed Patricia in the kitchen. Her voice grew increasingly shrill, throwing around phrases like family matter and misunderstanding. Officer Chen, a composed woman about my age, sat across from me, reviewing the insurance records and photographs. This is incredibly thorough, Mrs. Mitchell, she said, impressed. Do you have the security footage? I nodded, pulling it up on my phone. The timestamp clearly showed Patricia making multiple trips to her SUV, hauling boxes of my meticulously packed dolls. She even laughed on the phone during one trip, her smugness on full display. I've contacted the charity shop, I said. They confirmed she brought everything in this morning. Unfortunately, they've already sold a few items. They're checking their sales logs now. A crash from the kitchen interrupted us. Patricia had knocked over a chair, her indignation growing louder. I was helping her, she insisted. They were just gathering dust. This is absurd. Officer Chen raised an eyebrow. Has she done anything like this before? I opened a spreadsheet on my laptop. It's a pattern, I explained, showing her the detailed record. The unauthorized garden renovation, the time she gave away my mother's heirloom china, The endless rearranging of my home without permission. She has no respect for boundaries. Officer Chen murmured her approval of my record keeping. My phone buzzed with a message from Robert. Mom called me crying. What's going on? Why are the police at the house? Before I could reply, Patricia stormed into the living room, her composure unraveling. I just spoke to Robert, she announced triumphantly. He's coming home early to fix this. Mrs. Henderson, Officer Chen said, her tone firm. Please return to Officer Davis. We're not done with your statement. This is ridiculous, Patricia snapped. Emma's just being dramatic. She's always been jealous of my relationship with Robert. Possessive and immature. My jaw tightened. Is that why you gave away my collection? To teach me a lesson? They were turning this place into a museum. Robert agrees with me. You need to grow up and focus on being a proper wife, not playing with toys. The room went silent, her words hanging in the air like a slap. Even Patricia seemed to realize she'd overstepped. Officer Chen stood. Mrs. Henderson, you've admitted to knowingly removing and disposing of Mrs. Mitchell's property without permission, and by your own words, with intent to control her behavior. This constitutes theft. Given the value of the items, this is a felony offense. Patricia blanched. A felony? But I'm a grandmother. I volunteer at church. You can't arrest me. We can, and we will. Officer Davis said, stepping in. Please stand up and place your hands behind your back. As Patricia was escorted out, a car screeched into the driveway. Robert hurried up the walkway, his face a mixture of anger and confusion. Emma, what the hell is going on? Why are they arresting Mom? I turned my laptop toward him, displaying the insurance records, photos, and security footage. Your mother stole over $100,000 worth of my collection and gave it away without my consent. Here's the proof. He scrolled through the documentation, his face paling. I didn't know. No, you didn't, I said quietly, because you never asked. You always believed her version of events, never questioning how her actions affected me. You have to drop the charges, he pleaded. She's my mom. And I'm your wife, I replied, but you've never protected me from her. This isn't just about the money, Robert. It's about respect. Something she's never shown me, and you've never demanded. Robert flinched but didn't argue. He watched helplessly as the police car drove away with Patricia inside. I need to go to the station, he said finally. She'll need a lawyer. Yes, I said. A good one. As he left, my phone buzzed. A message from Laura, a fellow collector. Just spotted one of your dolls on Facebook Marketplace. Looks like it was sold this morning. Sending a link now. I allowed myself a small, determined smile. The hunt to recover my collection had begun. Patricia thought she could diminish me, but she was about to learn that some battles are worth fighting, and some stupid dolls are worth far more than she'd ever understand. 3 months after Patricia's arrest, I sat in my newly restored doll room, gently placing the recovered Wild Lily doll into its glass display case. The sunlight streaming through the window caught her vintage dress, making her look as radiant as the day I first acquired her. It had taken weeks of effort, negotiating with buyers, navigating legal channels. But I'd managed to recover most of my collection. The collector who had unknowingly purchased Lily from the charity shop had returned her without hesitation once they heard the full story. Patricia's trial loomed just weeks away. She'd initially pleaded not guilty, spinning her actions as an attempt to help the family, but the evidence told a different story. Her lawyer was now scrambling to secure a plea deal. My attorney was confident. With the records you kept and the value of the missing items, she's looking at probation and restitution, he'd assured me. The judge was particularly impressed with your thorough documentation. Robert had moved out 2 weeks after the incident. He'd left a note, claiming he needed time to figure things out. The irony wasn't lost on me that he needed clarity only after his mother faced consequences, not during the years she bulldozed over boundaries with his silent approval. The doorbell rang, breaking me out of my thoughts. Checking the security camera, I saw Patricia on the porch. Her appearance startled me. Gone was the polished, imperious woman I was used to. Her perfectly styled hair was unkempt, her designer wardrobe replaced by a simple sweater and jeans. For a moment, I debated not answering, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the door. Emma, she said quietly, her voice devoid of its usual edge. Can we talk? I led her into the living room, noticing how her gaze flickered toward the doll room, now fully restored. She flinched, her composure faltering as she took in the sight of the carefully arranged displays. "I've been in therapy," she began, twisting her hands in her lap. "It's part of the pre-trial intervention program. And I owe you an apology." I said nothing, waiting. She took a deep breath, her voice trembling. "I didn't see you." "Not really. I saw you as a threat, someone taking Robert away from me. Everything you loved, everything that made you unique, I treated like it didn't matter. I told myself I was helping, but I was just trying to control you." "Yes, you were," I said, my voice steady. Tears welled in her eyes. The therapist helped me see why I acted that way, but understanding it doesn't excuse it. "I'm so sorry, Emma, for everything." For a long moment, I studied her face. The usual manipulative glint was absent, replaced by something resembling genuine remorse. "Thank you for apologizing," I said finally. "But an apology doesn't erase what you did. You destroyed something precious to me because you didn't respect me or my boundaries." "I know," she whispered. "Robert left me too. He said he needs to figure out who he is, away from my influence." Her lips curved into a small, bittersweet smile. "I guess I'm learning about consequences the hard way." I stood and walked toward the doll room. Patricia hesitated before following, her steps tentative. Gesturing to the displays, I said, "This collection represents years of my life. Every piece has a story. But you never cared to ask about any of them. You dismissed them because they didn't matter to you." Patricia's tears fell freely now. "I'd like to hear those stories someday, if you're willing to share." "Maybe," I replied, "but first we need to get through the trial. Restitution is just the start. Trust takes time to rebuild." After Patricia left, I returned to the doll room, surrounded by the collection I had fought so hard to reclaim. Each piece wasn't just a reminder of what I loved. It was a symbol of resilience, boundaries, and self-respect. Later that evening, Robert called, asking to meet for coffee. I agreed, not out of hope but out of closure. Whether he'd learned anything about respect and accountability remained to be seen. Either way, I knew who I was now. I knew what I deserved. No one would ever make me feel small again. I reached for Lily, smoothing her tiny vintage dress. "We've both been through a lot," I said softly, smiling at her. "But we're right where we belong." Patricia had tried to teach me a lesson about growing up. Instead, she'd learned one about respect, boundaries, and the true value of the things she dismissed as worthless. And that was worth more than any collectible in my display case. My name is Amy, and I never imagined that one slap could unravel everything. The carefully built illusion of our perfect family. Looking back, I should have noticed the clues. The late-night texts, the hushed conversations, the way James would hide his phone whenever I walked into the room. But when you're juggling 2 kids and trying to manage a home, the obvious things slip by unnoticed. My relationship with Susan, my mother-in-law, was always a little strained. Not openly hostile, but certainly far from warm. She'd always been polite at family events, remembered the kids' birthdays, and occasionally offered to help babysit. But there was an unspoken tension, a quiet waiting for me to slip up. "She's just protective of James," my sister would say when I voiced my frustrations. You know how some mothers are with their only sons. But what Susan called protective often felt like surveillance. She dropped by uninvited, usually when James was at work, saying she was just in the neighborhood. She'd wander through our house, running her finger along surfaces, scrutinizing the state of things, even peeking into the fridge. Her comments were always loaded with passive aggression. "Oh, more takeout containers." She'd click her tongue. When James was growing up, I always made sure he had home-cooked meals. The kids, Tommy, 8, and Lisa, 6, adored their grandmother. She'd spoil them with gifts and affection, calling herself the fun one, while I was the boring mom who made them do homework and eat vegetables. I tried to maintain peace for James's sake. He was always caught between me and his mother, trying to keep both of us happy. "That's just how she is," he'd shrug after a tense visit. "She means well." The day everything came crashing down started like any other. It was a Saturday morning and I was doing laundry while the kids watched cartoons. James had left early for what he said was an emergency at work, a common excuse for an 8 manager dealing with weekend crisis. I was sorting through his pants when I felt something hard. Pulling it out, I found a phone I didn't recognize, an old, beat-up model, the kind you'd use if you didn't want to be traced. My hands trembled as I powered it on. No password, Just a list of calls and texts to a number saved as K. The most recent message read, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place." I sat on the laundry room floor, reading message after message, each one a slap to my chest. The calls spanned months. The texts were worse. Intimate exchanges, plans to meet, complaints about his controlling wife. I was still gripping the phone when I heard Susan's voice from the living room. Of course, she'd shown up unannounced again. "Amy, where are you?" The front door was unlocked. "Really, you should be more careful with my grandchildren's safety." I shoved the phone in my pocket and walked out to greet her. She was standing in our living room, purse hanging from her arm, eyeing everything with that familiar, disapproving stare. The kids had abandoned their cartoons and rushed to her, eager for attention. "Grandma brought cookies," Lisa squealed. "Before lunch? Really, Susan?" I couldn't keep the frustration out of my voice. Susan gave me that infuriating, condescending smile. "A few cookies never hurt anyone, Amy, but I suppose you wouldn't know, being so rigid with everything." Maybe it was the weight of the phone in my pocket, or maybe the years of biting my tongue. But something inside me snapped. I pulled out the phone and held it up. "Speaking of rigid, Susan, care to explain why your perfect son has a secret phone?" The change in her expression was instant. The smug smile disappeared, replaced by something darker. "Where did you get that?" she demanded, her voice sharp. "Found it in his pocket. Fascinating reading material." I turned to the kids. "Tommy, Lisa, go to your rooms. Now." "But Grandma's cookies," Tommy started. "Now," I commanded. They went without protests, sensing something in my voice. Once they were gone, Susan stalked toward me, hand outstretched. "Give me that phone. You have no right to." "No right," I laughed bitterly, the sound almost manic. "He's my husband. These messages, has he been cheating on me the entire time? Did you know?" Her face twisted with fury. "How dare you go through his private things? This is why he needs someone else. You suffocate him with your rules, your suspicions." "You knew," I whispered, the truth settling over me like a weight. "You've known this whole time." "Of course I knew," she spat. "James tells me everything." "Who do you think has been covering for him? Making sure you didn't get suspicious when he needed to get away? He deserves some happiness after being trapped with you for 10 years. I felt like I was drowning in cold water. All the unannounced visits, the emergencies, she hadn't just known, she'd been complicit. She'd been helping him cheat. "Give me that phone," she demanded again, her hand reaching for it. "No," I held it out of her grasp. "I'm calling him right now. He's coming home to explain." The slap hit me out of nowhere, a sharp sting that made my head snap to the side. The phone dropped to the floor as I staggered back, my cheek burning. "You ungrateful little witch," Susan screamed. "After everything we've done for you." "Mom." Both of us froze. Tommy and Lisa stood in the doorway, wide-eyed and terrified. Lisa was quietly crying, and Tommy looked like a child who had seen something far too ugly. Did you hit Mom?" Tommy's voice was barely a whisper. In an instant, Susan's grandmother mask slid back into place. "Oh, sweeties, no, Grandma would never. Your mother and I were just having a little disagreement. Get out." My voice was frigid, barely controlled. I touched my cheek where it still burned. "Get out of my house. Now. You can't keep me from my grandchildren. Leave," I screamed, my voice cracking with anger. "Before I call the police and show them what you just did in front of my kids." She grabbed her purse, her face twisted with hatred. "This isn't over," she hissed, her eyes venomous as she walked toward the door. "When James hears about this." "Oh, he'll hear about it all right." I grabbed the phone from the floor, clutching it in my hand. "He'll hear everything." After she left, I held my sobbing children, trying to explain what I barely understood myself. But as I sat there, still reeling, one thing was clear. The phone wasn't just a betrayal of my marriage. It was the beginning of a war I never wanted but was now ready to fight. Susan had no idea what she'd set in motion. That phone would take down far more than just my marriage. A single slap had started an avalanche, and everything was about to fall apart. I spent the next hour soothing the kids, though my mind was racing. Lisa wouldn't stop crying, clutching her stuffed bunny as if it could protect her, while Tommy's questions came like a flood. "Mom, is Grandma going to jail? Do the police need to come?" I knelt to their level, forcing a smile I didn't feel. No, honey. Grandma just made a mistake, and sometimes adults get upset and do things they shouldn't. But everything's okay now. The throbbing in my cheek begged to differ, but my priority was keeping them calm. Once they were settled in Tommy's room with a movie, I sat at the kitchen table, the secret phone lying like a bomb in front of me. It didn't take long for me to uncover the extent of James's betrayal. Message after message between him and Kay revealed every painful detail. Their conversation swung from flirtation to full-blown intimacy, peppered with complaints about his controlling wife. Miss you already. Can't wait till next weekend when the witch takes the kids to her mom's. Susan's covering for us again. She's the best. Your wife seriously doesn't suspect. Lol, lucky you. Each text was like a stab, but the real shock came when the phone buzzed in my hand. A new message from Kay. I'm here. Where are you? Don't keep me waiting like last time. My chest tightened. This wasn't some distant memory. It was happening right now. My hands shook as I typed back. Where exactly? Just want to make sure I'm in the right place. The reply came instantly. Same as always. The Cardinal Hotel, room 412. My heart dropped. The Cardinal Hotel, a modest place 15 minutes from our house. I had the proof, but I needed to see. I called Anne, our neighbor. Can you watch Tommy and Lisa for an hour? It's an emergency. Anne didn't hesitate. Minutes later, she was at my door, and I was driving to the hotel, adrenaline roaring in my ears. The lobby of the Cardinal Hotel was nondescript, neutral tones, generic art, and an oblivious receptionist. I made my way to room 412, my footsteps heavy but determined. I knocked. The door opened and there she was, blonde, young, beautiful, wearing nothing but his shirt, the one I gifted James last Christmas. Her smile faltered when she saw me. Can I help you? Is my husband here? My voice was steady, though my insides churned. Her face drained of color. Before she could answer, James's voice came from inside. Who is it, Katie? So Kay had a name. I pushed past her into the room, and there he was, my husband, scrambling to pull on his pants. His eyes widened as he saw me, panic written across his face. Amy? His voice cracked. How did you? I hurled the phone at him, hitting him square in the chest before it clattered to the floor. Your mother slapped me in front of our kids today, I said coldly. Did you know? Did you know she's been covering for you? Helping you cheat? Katie tried to slip past me toward the door. I stepped in her path. Oh no, you're not leaving. How long has this been going on? She hesitated, glancing at James. Tell me, I shouted, and she flinched. 2 years, she whispered, but he said you knew, that you had some kind of arrangement. I laughed, the sound raw and bitter. An arrangement? Is that what you told her, James? That your wife was fine with you sneaking around while she raised your kids? Amy, please, James stammered. Let's talk about this at home. Talk? You want to talk? You've had 2 years to talk, and instead you lie to my face every single day. I jabbed a finger toward him, my voice rising. You've destroyed our family, and your mother helped you do it. She was just. She stele peeking me, James, in front of Tommy and Lisa. Katie pressed herself against the wall, horror dawning on her face. You never said anything about kids, she whispered to James. Or violence. James ran his hands through his hair, looking every bit the pathetic liar he was. I pulled out my phone and held it up. By the way, I've been recording this entire conversation, so if you or your mother even think about trying to paint me as the bad guy, I'll make sure everyone sees exactly who you are. James paled. The Cardinal Hotel was where his company hosted clients. Using the company's accounts for his affair would destroy him. You wouldn't, he whispered. Try me, I hissed. Now, pack your things and get out of my house. Go stay with your precious mother. I turned to Katie. And you? Might want to get tested. He's clearly been lying to both of us. With that, I walked out, leaving the door swinging behind me. The drive home was a blur. I barely registered pulling into the driveway until I saw Anne waving from the porch. Stay for dinner? I asked, my voice cracking. She nodded without hesitation. Of course. That night, as we ate pizza and watched cartoons with the kids, my phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from James, Susan, even his father. I ignored them all. Around midnight, headlights illuminated the driveway. I watched from the window as James and Susan loaded his bags into her car. When they tried the door, they found it locked. Anne's husband had changed the locks hours ago. As they drove away, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Katie. We need to talk. There's more you should know." I stared at Katie's message for what felt like an eternity. Could there really be more? Hadn't my life unraveled enough? Still, curiosity gnawed at me until I finally responded. We arranged to meet the next morning at a coffee shop, just after I dropped the kids at school. I half expected her to ghost me, but she was there when I arrived, no makeup, her hair in a simple ponytail and nervous energy pouring off her as she cradled her coffee cup. She looked nothing like the confident woman I'd seen at the hotel. Her first words were, "I'm sorry." I stayed silent, letting her squirm. Finally, she continued, "I thought you knew. I swear James told me you were separated. He even showed me papers, divorce papers. Said it was all for show, for the kids." The blood draining from my face. "What papers?" Katie hesitated before pulling out her phone. She handed it to me, showing a picture of divorce documents. My name was at the bottom, signed and dated. My forged signature. I shoved the phone back at her, my hand trembling. "What else?" I demanded. Her voice wavered. He told me to invest in his business ventures. Said he needed to get his finances in order before leaving you. I gave him nearly $50,000. And I'm not the only one. There are others, at least 2 more I've talked to. We found each other online. I felt like the floor had been ripped out from under me. Others, I managed to choke out. Katie nodded. He and your mother-in-law have been doing this for years. She meets the women first, makes us feel special. Talks about what a terrible wife you are, how trapped James is. She sells us on the idea of rescuing him. Then he reels us in. I stared at her, my stomach churning. It wasn't just an affair. It was a scam. My husband and his mother were con artists. Katie handed me a folder with everything she had, bank statements, screenshots, even photos of the forged documents. "We're going to the police," she said. "We thought you should know first." I left the coffee shop in a daze, clutching the folder like it was a lifeline. When I got home, my phone buzzed with 3 voicemails from Susan. The first was calm. "You're making a mistake, dear." The second was pleading. "Think about the children. Don't let this ruin their lives." The third was ice cold. "If you go through with this, we'll destroy you. We have evidence you're an unfit mother. Don't test us." I didn't even flinch. Instead, I forwarded the voicemail to my lawyer. When she listened to it, her eyes widened. "This is witness intimidation," she said. "And with these forged documents, Mrs. Carter, this isn't just a messy divorce. This is a criminal case." From there, everything happened fast. The police got involved. More women came forward, 5 in total. James and Susan had perfected their con long before I came into the picture, targeting wealthy single women and divorcees. They'd been running this scam for nearly a decade. James didn't contest the divorce or custody. He was too busy trying to stay out of jail. When the forged documents came to light, he threw Susan under the bus, claiming it was all her idea. Susan, in turn, painted herself as a devoted mother trying to help her son escape a bad marriage. The judge didn't buy any of it. James got 3 years for fraud. Susan received 18 months for her role. I got full custody of the kids and a fresh start. Tommy and Lisa ask about their father less and less these days. We've been in family therapy, working through everything, and they're starting to smile again. Kids are resilient, or so my therapist says. I just hope she's right. Last week, I got a letter from Susan in prison. It was full of apologies and excuses, how she was just trying to give James the life he deserved. I didn't write back. Sometimes I think about that slap, how one moment of violence exposed years of lies. Susan thought she could put me in my place, but instead she shattered the facade they'd built. The kids and I still live in the house, but it feels different now. We've painted the walls, rearranged the furniture, made it ours. Anne's husband installed a security system, just in case. Yesterday, Tommy asked if we could take down the family photos that included James and Susan. They're not really our family anymore, he said. They just pretended to be. So we took them down and replaced them with new ones, just the 3 of us, laughing and healing. That slap didn't just change my life. It saved it. It's just money and family shares. Ashley's voice oozed with condescension through the phone. You can always save more. Emma's only 12. You've got plenty of time. I stood frozen in my kitchen, staring at the glaring red numbers on my banking app. The college fund I'd been building for Emma since the day she was born, nearly $87,000, was gone. Drained entirely. My name is Rachel Parker, and at 38, I never thought I'd be betrayed like this by my own family. I'd spent years as the responsible one, raising my daughter alone after Mark's death 5 years ago, working as a pediatric nurse to make sure Emma's future stayed bright. Mark's sister, Ashley, had always been around, though rarely in a way that helped. Ashley, I said, keeping my voice level, a skill honed from handling pediatric emergencies. That money was for Emma's education. How did you even access it? She laughed, the sound grating in my ears. Oh please. Mark made me a co-signer when Emma was born. You never bothered to change it after he died. Her words hit like a sucker punch. In the chaos of grief after Mark's accident, I'd been too focused on holding myself and Emma together to think about legal details. Now that oversight had cost my daughter her future. The pool was falling apart, Ashley continued, as if we were discussing something as trivial as borrowed sugar. It was a safety hazard, Rachel. What was I supposed to do? Let my kids swim in that mess? Family helps family. You should understand that. My jaw tightened. Emma was upstairs, working on her science project, her dreams of becoming a doctor burning brighter every day. And here was Ashley, justifying stealing from her niece to fix a pool. How much did the repairs cost? I asked calmly, though my hands were trembling. About $30,000, she said breezily. I took a little extra for landscaping too. The yard was looking shabby, and property values matter in this neighborhood. Really, I did you a favor. Emma can enjoy it when she visits. The rest of the money, $57,000, gone to landscaping. My stomach churned, but I kept my voice even. And when were you planning to tell me about this? Oh, you know how busy life gets, Ashley said dismissively. I figured you'd understand. You're always talking about how families should support each other. Like when you asked me to babysit Emma last month. I clenched the phone tighter, her flippant comparison igniting my anger. Babysitting for one night wasn't stealing a college fund. You're right, Ashley, I said, forcing calm into my tone. Families should support each other. Thanks for letting me know. The silence on her end told me she wasn't expecting that response. Well, good. I'm glad we're on the same page. After hanging up, I sat at the kitchen table, pulling up my banking records. Years of dealing with hospital bureaucracy had taught me the importance of documentation. I downloaded every statement showing my careful deposits into Emma's fund and began composing an email to James Turner, Mark's college friend and a top financial lawyer in the city. Mom? Emma's voice startled me. She stood in the doorway, her ponytail swinging like Mark's had when he was her age. Is everything okay? I heard you on the phone. I forced a smile. It's fine, sweetheart. Just grown-up stuff. How's the science project? Almost done, she said brightly. I'm writing about genetic markers in cancer cells. Dad's oncology journals really helped. Pride swelled in my chest. I wouldn't let Ashley's greed derail Emma's dreams. Later that night, after Emma was asleep, I called Margaret, my mother-in-law. Her usual warmth turned to sharp anger as I explained what had happened. She did what? Margaret exclaimed. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I knew Ashley was struggling financially, but I never imagined she'd stoop this low. Struggling? I pressed, sensing there was more. Margaret sighed. She's been day trading, trying to make quick money. I warned her, but she doesn't listen. Last I heard, she'd lost a lot. Everything clicked, the frantic pool repairs, the ridiculous landscaping. Ashley hadn't just been impulsive, she was desperate, clinging to appearances. What are you going to do? Margaret asked softly. Protect Emma, I said firmly. Mark would have wanted that. As I sorted through old documents, I stumbled on a letter Mark had written weeks before his death. In it, he'd expressed concern over Ashley's growing financial instability and his intention to remove her as a co-signer on Emma's fund. He just hadn't gotten the chance. I forwarded the letter to James, adding it to the growing case file. Then I transferred every penny from my savings, meant for a future home, into a new secure account for Emma's education. A house could wait. Her future couldn't. Ashley's text arrived as I was wrapping up. The kids love the pool. You and Emma should come over this weekend to try it out. See? Everyone benefits. I didn't respond. Instead, I filed a formal complaint with the state banking authority. Ashley thought she could get away with this, but she was about to learn a hard truth. Real family protects each other, and betrayal has consequences. As I worked late into the night, gathering evidence, I could almost feel Mark's steady presence beside me. For Emma, I'd fight with everything I had. The next morning, an email from James turned my coffee sour. Ashley hadn't just drained Emma's college fund. She'd also tried to access Mark's life insurance policy 2 months ago. The insurance company had denied her request, but the attempt was well documented. This establishes a clear pattern, James wrote. We can use this to show premeditated financial exploitation. I've drafted a cease and desist letter, but I recommend we move quickly on legal action. The longer we wait, the harder it may be to recover the funds. I was drafting a reply when the doorbell rang. Standing there, dressed in designer sunglasses and a strained smile, was Ashley. Rachel, I thought I'd stop by to discuss the pool in person. Emma should really come see the finished project. Her contribution made all the difference. Her casual tone, as if this were about a bake sale donation instead of stolen money, made my stomach churn. Come in, Ashley, I said, masking my irritation. Emma's at her study group, so we can talk privately. She strolled into the living room, dropping her expensive handbag on the couch as though she owned the place. I brought pictures of the pool, she chirped, pulling out her phone. The waterfall feature turned out amazing. It really elevates the neighborhood. I sat across from her, watching her fidget with her wedding ring, an old habit that betrayed her nerves. Actually, I said evenly, I'd like to talk about the life insurance policy. The color drained from her face. What about it? The insurance company contacted me this morning, I said. They mentioned your inquiry about Mark's policy. Odd timing, don't you think? Especially given what happened with Emma's college fund. Ashley faltered, her polished coiffe slipping. That was just a misunderstanding, she stammered. I was helping Mom organize some family paperwork. You know how she gets confused. Margaret doesn't seem confused to me, I replied. In fact, she seemed quite clear when she told me about your day trading losses. Her expression hardened. She had no right to tell you that. It's none of your business. It became my business when you stole from my daughter to cover your gambling debts. Day trading isn't gambling. Ashley snapped, standing abruptly. And I didn't steal anything. Mark would have wanted to help me. He always helped family. I thought of Mark, how hard he'd worked to build Emma's college fund, determined to give her opportunities he never had. Mark wanted to protect his daughter, I said, pulling out a letter I'd found among his things. In fact, he was planning to remove you as co-signer before the accident. He knew he couldn't trust you with Emma's future. Ashley's hands trembled as she snatched the letter, her face pale as she read it. This doesn't mean anything, she muttered. He didn't actually make the changes. I had every legal right to access that account. Having access doesn't make it right, I said, my calm cracking into controlled anger. You didn't just steal from me or Emma. You betrayed your own brother's trust. Oh, stop being so dramatic, she scoffed, but her voice wavered. It's just money. I'll pay it back eventually. With what? I asked, my tone cutting. Your failed trades, or will you steal from someone else? Her face flushed. You're just jealous because I'm trying to create something better for my family. That pool adds value to our home. It's an investment. An investment you funded with your niece's future, I shot back. Well, I've made an investment too. I hired James Turner to handle this legally. She froze at the mention of Mark's lawyer. James? You involved James. I did. This isn't going away, Ashley. Either you return the money voluntarily, or we'll let the courts decide. It's your choice. Ashley grabbed her bag, her composure crumbling. You're making a huge mistake, she spat. Think about what this will do to the family. I am thinking about family, I said firmly. Specifically, my daughter's future. After she stormed out, my phone buzzed with a flood of texts. Ashley had already started spinning her narrative, portraying herself as the victim of my so-called vendetta. But I was done playing nice. I forwarded James's email to Margaret, along with the documentation of Ashley's attempted fraud. The family group chat exploded within the hour. How could you do this to Emma? Margaret's message cut through the noise. Your own brother trusted you to protect his daughter, not steal from her. Ashley's responses grew increasingly frantic. It wasn't stealing. I was going to pay it back. Rachel's blowing this out of proportion. I muted the chat and called Emma's study group mom to check in. Emma was fine, engrossed in a discussion about cellular biology. Like her father, she found peace in understanding how things worked and how to fix them when they broke. Some things, though, couldn't be fixed. Trust, once shattered, was far harder to repair than any pool. Later, James called with more news. I filed the paperwork, he said. But there's something else. You were right. Most of the money didn't even go to the pool. It went into her day trading accounts. The revelation tightened the knot in my chest. What are our options? We could pursue criminal charges, James said. This is fraud and theft. Or we could handle it civilly, but it'll take longer to recover the money. I thought of Emma and her father's compassionate heart. Let's start civilly. Give her one chance to make this right before we escalate. More generous than she deserves, James remarked. I'll get everything drafted. That evening, Emma looked up from her homework as we ate dinner. Mom, is something wrong with Aunt Ashley? Your phone kept buzzing. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Sometimes adults make big mistakes, I said, but I promise I'm handling it. She nodded, wise beyond her years. Dad always said we have to hold people accountable, even when it's hard. Especially family. Looking at her, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Ashley had exploited our grief, trust, and family ties. But she was about to learn that some bonds, once broken, only strengthened the resolve to protect what truly matters. 2 weeks after filing the civil suit, Ashley's web of deceit unraveled in ways none of us had anticipated. The pool company called me directly, puzzled by the $30,000 repair figure cited in the legal documents. Mrs. Parker, the owner explained, we only billed $8,000 for basic repairs and maintenance. Nothing near what's being claimed. We can provide the invoices if you need them. Those invoices became the final nail in the coffin of Ashley's lies. James compiled everything. The bank transfers, the pool company's actual bills, and the records showing that Ashley had funneled nearly all of Emma's college fund into high-risk day trading accounts, which now sat nearly empty. During mediation, when confronted with the overwhelming evidence, Ashley finally broke down. I thought I could double the money, she sobbed, mascara streaking down her face. The form said it was guaranteed returns. I was going to put it all back, with interest. Emma would have had even more for college. Margaret, sitting beside me, shook her head in disgust. Your brother worked himself to the bone for years to save that money, and you gambled it away in weeks. The mediator laid out the terms. Ashley could agree to a repayment plan with strict oversight and liens on her property or face criminal charges for fraud. But I don't have the money, Ashley protested, her voice barely a whisper. The market crashed. It's all gone. Then sell the house, Margaret said coldly. The one you're so proud of with its pool and landscaping. Downsize, get a job. Do whatever it takes, but you will make this right. Under the final agreement, Ashley and her husband had to sell their house, using the equity to repay most of Emma's fund. The remaining balance would be deducted from her wages once she found employment. She was also required to attend gambling addiction counseling. It's more than she deserves, Margaret told me afterward. But Mark would have wanted us to give her a chance to fix her mistakes even now. The day Ashley moved out of her house, Emma and I drove past. The 4 SALE sign stood in sharp contrast to the pristine pool that had set this nightmare in motion. Mom, Emma asked softly, do you think Aunt Ashley will ever realize what she did? I thought about family, trust, and the lessons Mark had instilled in us. Sometimes people have to lose everything to appreciate what they've had, I said. But right now, let's focus on your future. That afternoon, we drove to the bank, where I opened a new college fund for Emma, this time under my sole control. As I transferred my savings, the deposit I planned for our dream house, Emma looked up at me, alarmed. Mom, you don't have to give up your dream house for me. I hugged her tightly, her hair still smelling faintly of the shampoo she'd used since she was little. Sweetheart, you are my dream. The house can wait. 6 months later, Emma stood on stage at the State Science Fair, accepting first place for her research on genetic markers. As she smiled at the crowd, I noticed a familiar figure in the back of the auditorium, Ashley. She lingered quietly, watching Emma with a mixture of pride and regret before slipping away unnoticed. That evening, a letter arrived from Ashley, Rachel, and Emma. I can never undo the harm I caused. But I want you to know I'm working on becoming someone worthy of being called family again. Counseling is helping me understand why I made the choices I did. Mark would be so proud of Emma, and so ashamed of me. I hope one day you can forgive me, but I understand if you can't. Ashley. I showed the letter to Emma, letting her decide how to respond. After a thoughtful pause, she said something that reminded me so much of Mark. It took my breath away. Everyone deserves a second chance, Mom, she said, but maybe not a second chance at handling money. I laughed, holding her close, knowing that whatever the future held, we had emerged stronger. Emma had inherited her father's best qualities, his wisdom, his compassion, and his unshakable sense of right and wrong. The college fund is slowly being rebuilt, and while Ashley still has a long road ahead in earning back our trust, I've learned what truly matters. It's not the money in our accounts, but the values we carry in our hearts, and the determination to protect what truly counts.